Hi, and thanks very much for joining me. I'm Dean the Vaping Biker, and today we're going to be looking at an RDA which is kind of divided opinion between amongst some, and to be honest with you, it was a little bit of a learning curve for me as well when it came to usage. But today we're going to be looking at the new one from Vandy Vape and Alex from Vapers MD, and today we're going to be looking at the Phobia RDA, which hopefully is in focus right about now. Anyway, let's dive down up close, shall we? Come on then. Okay then, so here we are with the box for the Phobia RDA. Now obviously this box is, as it says, it's not the one that you're going to get when you actually go out and buy it. This is going to be just the sample one, so we're not going to spend any time really looking on that one. Now what we've got inside here, I believe you do get, and the reason that I'm going to do the review on this one is I don't believe it's changed on the retail version as opposed to what you get in here. Now we'll look at these obviously in a moment. We've got the RDA there, we've got an extra barrel and an extra drip tip, which we'll look at in a little bit more detail shortly, and then under here we've got the bag of spares as well. Let's have a little zoom in, shall we? Okay, so you can see what we've got here in the spares that I've got. We've got a 510 drip tip adapter, we've got a couple of extra O-rings, only one of each it looks like going on there. I don't know if the packaging for the retail one is any different. We've got some Allen head screw extra post screws, and I've installed the squonk pin on mine for recent vaping. So we've got the main 510, and we've got a little blue screwdriver as well. Now then, just something to be aware of. We've seen this before with other Vandy Vape products. Make sure I'm in focus, Dean. This is one of those split 510s. Now, when this is actually situated in the RDA itself, I don't really have any problems or any requirement to make the 510 stick out a little bit further. However, you can do that by just unscrewing that like so. So you can actually make sure it kind of comes out of the base of the RDA for use on certain like hybrid mods, for instance. But just be aware that if you've got this pin in there and you unscrew it, then this little section by itself is not everything you need to unscrew. If you want to pop the squonk pin in, you're going to have to take this one out as well. Just because it looks as though it's got a hole going down the middle there, it doesn't necessarily mean it's squonk friendly. So just to be aware of that one. So one of my lights just went out, so sorry about that rather dodgy cut going on there. But this is the RDA itself. Now this is the drip tip that comes installed on this particular side of things. Now you do also get this extra barrel as well. Now once again we've got this logo on the front of it. Now both of these logos are very, very similar to the Offspring logo, but they are a little bit different as well. So no, it's a flaming skull kind of vibe going on. Now both of these caps do also have the cutouts at the bottom for the airflow, which we'll see in a little while. Now then, this one does also come with this big old drip tip as well if you want something a little bit different, although you also come without the lip gunk. But that one obviously will just pop in there like so, and where you go. Now one of the things I wasn't overly sure about is why we had kind of this drip tip, and you know, I'm not sure what we're benefiting from using this one, to be honest with you. I'm not entirely clear about that one, apart from just a bigger bore, as you can see going on there. Now then, when it comes to the RDA itself, as I said, we've already looked at that logo going on the outside there. Now, if I pull the drip tip out, this is an 810 drip tip, so you can stick your own in there if you want to. And there we've got some more text going on the outside of that one. So there we go. You can have a little read of that one if you so wish, but that's there. So there you go, boom. Now underneath there we do have that it's the Phobia. We've got the various numbers. We've got it highlighting that it's Alex from Vapers MD, and as you can see that we do have the squonk pin installed at the moment. Now then, let's just take this apart so I can show you the deck. If we take this out, first of all, when it comes to this top cap, obviously that doesn't push out. That's kind of in there. So I guess maybe that's the reason why. I don't know. But no, that's it. Now, underneath this top cap, you will see that it is domed somewhat, and that means that it does help with the flavour, and it is a pretty decent flavour machine, to be honest with you. Now then, when it comes to the deck and how this little thing works, you can see here that we've got Phobia on the side of that post, if I can make sure that that's in focus. You can see that you've got Phobia going on there, and you can see that we do have these post screws. Now these are Phillips heads, but like I said, in my pack I got Allen head screws as well if you wanted to change them out. I don't know if that's exactly the same when it comes to the retail version or not, to be honest with you. Phobia on the other post as well, and then when we look down inside, you can see this is what we've got that's a little bit different to usual. Alrighty, so this is where the airflow comes in. So you've got the airflow that goes in at the sides down here, and then it kind of goes around the base and then up and then out of the post through this hole here. Hang on, focus, Dean, focus. Through this hole here and the side, the hole that's a little bit higher up as well. It's actually a surprisingly smooth airflow. I was a little bit shocked about that. I expected it to be way more turbulent than it actually is. But you can see the depth of the deck there. You do have quite a deep juice well going on, although obviously you do not want to overly stuff it with cotton, because then you'll get it'll be easier to over squonk and it'll be easier to over drip and all that sort of good stuff. But your coils are going to go in along there and along there, so they're over that airflow, and you know, it's fairly straightforward. You can see that you've got a little splitter there over the top of the squonk pin there, and I guess that's designed to kind of help the juice disperse between both sides. I don't really know how effective that is, but it's certainly there. It's a thing if you want it. But obviously this side is your positive, hence the insulation, and this side is your negative. Now what we'll do is we will get a quick and easy build going on here, if I can stop it flashing in front of the camera, and then I can tell you a little bit more about when it comes to dripping and all that sort of nonsense. Right, let's get this bad boy built. Okay, so I've just loosened off these screws a little bit, and I'm trying to do it under camera with one light, so it's a little bit interesting. I've rolled up a couple of the Claptons that I like to use, and I've just done 5 ramps each side, so this could be a little bit on the low side, but we'll see how we get on. Now, installing them is fairly simple and straightforward, as you might expect. Now, I have trimmed these leads back a little bit. You can see they're kind of lengthwise. I mean, I don't know if that's any good as a sort of a measurement, but basically it's between one post and the other, or thereabouts. That's the kind of measurement that I'm going with on this one today. But all we're going to do is we're going to just pop the coils over the top, and whoops, no more fingers and thumbs, over the top, and in we go. Okay, so they're not the tidiest, but they will do once again. And you can see that I've kind of tried to sort of situate... Oh, let's get in focus, Dean, shall we? You can see that I've tried to situate them kind of in that curve where that airflow is. And for me, that is kind of where it's been working out the best. Although you do have to be careful with dripping, as we will explain later on. Now then, I'll show you wicking in a second. But just before I do that, I'd rather than squonking, I thought I'd put the regular pin in. And just to show you that without loosening this section of the 510 off at all, it's still protruding nicely, and you've got that insulator when it comes to mech mod. So I don't really think there's a requirement for the extra threading that's needed inside that screw, but it's certainly there should it be required. But everything else is in there nice and tightly. So I'm going to fire these up and show you how I wick them. Alright, so when it comes to the wicking, you can see that I've not really gone too far outside the actual sort of the base, the circumference of the base, if you like, and that's because you really do not want to over wick this one. By over wicking it, it's going to reduce the size of that juice channel, or the juice sort of well, if you like, and because of that, you're going to be a little bit more open to leakage and all that sort of malarkey. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is trimmed out, thinned out a little bit as well, just so I'm not kind of putting too much juice in there. Like I say, this one is the dripping one rather than the squonking, so I've got a little bit extra leeway on this one. But let's just tuck these in so we can have a little look and see how we're getting on. Alright, Alrighty, and that's it, all just tucked in, raring to go. Now you can see that there's still plenty of space in the middle of that deck, so the wick hasn't kind of all folded over itself. However, it is reaching the bottom of the deck, so that's exactly where you want it. There's still space down the middle, because if you do have to be quite particular with this and drip down the center rather than trying to do too much on your coils unless you're going to paint them. And when it comes to painting, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this Vapor Junkie peach yogurt juice going on here that you can't really see the label of because we're so zoomed up, but there we go. Now all you got to do is, especially when starting off, make sure that you do paint your coils, because if you dump it too much over the top of the coils, what's going to happen is the juice is going to run around the coil and then just dump itself down into the air hole. But you can see what I've done there. I'm just dripping straight down the middle, and that's managing to go out through the deck, so hopefully we can get away without getting any in the air holes. But that's it, just keeping it super simple. But you do just need to make sure that when you do drip, you are just a little bit on the careful side, because if you just splurge it all over the coils, odds are you're going to get some juice go down that air hole. But no, as far as it goes, that's it. That's all we need to worry about. Let's go up top and get this little puppy vaping, shall we? So that was the up close with the Vandy Vape Phobia, and it's an interesting one, that's for sure. Let's just have a little toot before we get. I've got it on top of the Claymore from Scotland. Hold on a tick. Let's go for a vape. So, I mean, it certainly chucks the clouds. The flavour is pretty darn decent as well, and you know, it's a pretty simple RDA with a slightly different take on the undercoil air situation. Now then, it did take a learning curve for me to get the coils right, to get them positioned right, and to make sure that I didn't put too much wick in there. I have found that if you put too much wick in it, then you're absolutely more at risk of over dripping or over squonking, because you're reducing the size of, you know, the deck and therefore what can go in there. So really, like I kind of tried to show you in the up close, you're sort of trimming down that wick, and you're making sure that there's not too much. It doesn't kind of fold underneath, and that way it kind of works. However, when it comes to dripping, this is what's caused me the biggest issue, to be honest with you. It just took a lot of time to realize that once I've created that space, like I did in the up close, once I've created that space down the middle, I can just drip down there and have a jolly good time. Now, one of the other things I've found is that if I'm dripping from a slight sort of further distance away, then it means that gravity is pushing that drop of juice or whatever straight down, and it's more likely to not get caught on the coil, if that makes sense. Because if you get your juice caught on the coil as you're dripping down, then it's very easy to go around the coil and then drip down into your airflow, much like any other undercoil airflow kind of RDA. So the tips that I've got for it really are just don't go crazy on the wick. Make sure that you're dripping straight down, possibly from a little bit of a distance, or obviously you can take off your top cap and then paint your coils like we used to with the Kennedys and all that sort of stuff as well, if you so want to. But no, otherwise, apart from that, you watch now, I've flooded it. I don't think I have. No, I haven't. You see, after that big dripping, still no sign of juice. Now the airflow is nice and smooth, which is good, because the only other one with this kind of sort of vibe going on when it comes to the air going underneath the deck there was the what was it, beginning with P, can't remember. But that had a sort of a moment of being quite turbulent underneath, whereas this is very, very smooth indeed. You can see that it does do a grand job. Now then, if I take this cap off, this is the one with the regular 810 drip tip on, and I'll pop the other cap on with the sort of super wide chuff style kind of cap, and we'll have a little toot on that. Now, obviously, it's not going to change the airflow going underneath that or going into that RDA. Now, it does seem to be a reasonably restricted airflow as well, because you've only got those holes that are going in on the posts there. Obviously, you've got dirty great big holes at the base of the RDA itself, but you've only got those holes going on the posts, and that does give a nice restriction, which does help kind of focus in on that flavour somewhat. So, to me, it works as a nice little RDA, but it is something that does need just a little bit of kind of getting used to when it comes to both your building, wicking and dripping. Now, when you do squonk with it, like I said, I've been squonking with it and had a perfectly fine time with it. Obviously, if you're using silicone bottles, then just, you know, be aware of it. Don't just push it super hard and hope everything's okay, fine and dandy, because much like a kind of a low side airflow or something along those lines, it will over squonk. It will. But that's not necessarily a thing of the RDA. That's more of an issue with the person doing the squonking, to be honest. But no, having said that, like I said, it took me a little while to get used to. It wasn't one of those sort of super quick things to do, and I think I've talked about this before, in as much as with squonking with side airflow things like the Bonza and what have you, I've kind of got super lazy, and with dripping as well, I just you juice all over the top of the coils and wallop, you're done. And it's just, even though I've been reviewing a few under coil airflow RDAs of late, it's just kind of made me focus in on that a little bit more. Now, like I said, because you can just fucking donk your juice down there, has that worked? Yeah, that's worked. It is a distinct advantage over to some of the other undercoil airflow RDAs that I've looked at, and things like your Kennedys and all that sort of stuff, because I don't think you have to be quite so delicate. So, you know, that's a definite positive. Now, in the UK, I think eSig 1 have them for $24.99. So they're going to be around about that £25-30, and the same in dollars, I imagine. But as it's Vandy Vape, it will be absolutely everywhere. It really will be. So, you know, I think it's an interesting little RDA. I don't know if I'm super excited about the kind of Offspring-esque logo on the front of it. And, you know, generally I'm not a massive kind of undercoil kind of air kind of guy, kind of. But no, it works, and it's easier to work than some of the others that I have tried. That's about it. You guys make up your own mind. If you've got one, please do let me know in the comments down below. And if you've got any other thoughts on it, then please do let me know. But don't just say, oh, shit, or something like that. Give me a reason. You know, let's expand the vocabulary a little bit, and let's have a conversation. Let's find out what you think of this and why you think the way that you do. That being said, I'm off. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dean the Vaping Biker. This has been the Phobia RDA from Vapers MD Alex and the people over at Vandy Vape. And on that note, I'm away. Have it larger.